There is a version of you that exists only on the other side of failure, a version stronger, wiser, more capable than the one standing here today, and the tragedy of most human lives is not that they fail, but that they never allow failure to finish its work. They flinch. They retreat. They label the experience a mistake, bury it, and spend the rest of their days avoiding anything that might produce that feeling again. And in doing so, they abandon the very teacher that was sent to prepare them for greatness. You have been lied to about failure your entire life. You have been taught to fear it, to avoid it at all costs, to see it as evidence of inadequacy rather than what it actually is, the tuition paid for mastery. Every person you have ever admired, every name whispered with reverence through history, paid this tuition in full, often more than once, often more than they could bear, and it was not despite their failures that they became extraordinary. It was because of what those failures taught them, and more importantly, because of what they refused to let those failures make them believe about themselves. Understand this distinction clearly, because your entire relationship with failure depends on it. Failure is an event. Believing you are a failure is an identity. And identity, once accepted, becomes the single most powerful force shaping everything you do or refuse to do from that point forward. The event passes in a moment. The identity, if you let it take root, can last a lifetime. This is why two people can experience the exact same setback, lose the same business, fail the same exam, suffer the same rejection, and one emerges sharper, hungrier, more dangerous in their pursuit of success, while the other quietly folds their ambitions away and never touches them again. The difference was never the failure itself. The difference was the meaning each person assigned to it. Thomas Edison did not merely tolerate failure on his way to inventing the electric light. He drowned in it. Thousands of attempts, thousands of configurations that produced nothing but darkness and wasted material, year after year, while the world outside grew impatient and skeptical, questioning whether the man had lost his mind chasing an impossible dream. And yet, when a young reporter asked him how it felt to fail so many times, Edison did not flinch, did not defend himself, did not seem burdened by the question at all. He simply corrected the premise entirely: I have not failed. I have successfully found thousands of ways that will not work. Sit with that response for a moment, because it is not clever wordplay, it is a complete reprogramming of how the human mind is allowed to interpret setback. Edison did not experience thousands of failures. He experienced thousands of data points, each one narrowing the field of possibility, each one moving him incrementally closer to the answer that would eventually illuminate the world. What separated him from the thousands of inventors who quietly gave up on similar pursuits was not genius. It was his refusal to accept the common definition of failure, the definition that says a setback means the path was wrong, rather than simply meaning the current method was wrong. This reframe changes everything, and it must become part of your own internal vocabulary if you intend to build anything of lasting significance. Every time you fail at something, you are being handed information. Painful information, yes. Inconvenient information, absolutely. But information nonetheless, data about what does not work, which by simple elimination brings you closer to what does. The scientist in the laboratory does not weep over a failed experiment and abandon the research entirely. They record the result, adjust the variable, and try again, because they understand that the path to discovery is paved with elimination. Not immediate arrival. But here is where most people sabotage themselves without realizing it. They experience the failure, and instead of extracting the lesson, they extract a verdict about their own worth. This is the wound is that so many carry silently, disguised as caution, as realism, as simply knowing their limits. Somewhere along the way, a failure was experienced not as an event to learn from, but as evidence to be filed away, proof that they are not talented enough, not smart enough, not lucky enough, not destined for the thing they once dared to want. And once that verdict is accepted, every future attempt is quietly sabotaged before it even begins, because the mind will always find a way to confirm what it has already decided to believe about itself. This is why Henry Ford's failures deserve just as much study as his eventual triumph. Before the empire, before the assembly line that would reshape industry itself, there were two failed automobile companies bearing his name, both collapsing into bankruptcy, both public humiliations in an era when business failure carried heavy social stigma. A lesser mind would have absorbed those failures as proof that he simply did not belong in this industry, that the dream was too large for his capability. Instead, Ford treated each collapse as an increasingly precise education, not in whether he could build cars, but in how those companies must be structured, financed, and led. The third attempt did not merely survive. It transformed the entire world's relationship with transportation. The lesson was never available in the first two failures alone. It was only available to a mind willing to keep extracting meaning from defeat rather than surrendering identity to it. This is the shift that must occur, not someday, not once you feel more prepared, but now, in the way you interpret every setback that has already happened and every one that is yet to come. The next time you fail, and you will, because failure is not a possibility reserved for the unlucky, it is a guaranteed companion of anyone pursuing something worth pursuing, you now have a choice about what that failure will be permitted to mean. It can become another brick in a wall of evidence you have built against your own potential. Or it can become exactly what it was always meant to be, tuition paid toward a version of yourself that does not yet exist, but is being constructed, lesson by uncomfortable lesson, failure by necessary failure, into someone capable of the exact life you have been too afraid to fully pursue. Go back, if you must, to the failures you have been carrying as verdicts. Examine them honestly. Extract whatever lesson remains buried inside them, unclaimed, waiting for you to be brave enough to look again. And then release the shame, because shame was never the purpose of the failure. The lesson was. And once you have taken the lesson, the failure has finished its work, and it no longer has any right to live inside you as anything other than the exact education it was always meant to provide. This is how failure becomes your greatest teacher, not by avoiding it, not by fearing it, not by allowing it to write a permanent verdict about who you are, but by facing it directly, extracting every lesson it came to deliver, and carrying that intelligence forward into the next attempt, and the next, until the version of you that failure was preparing all along finally, fully, arrives.